Okay, councillors, staff and members of the public, thank you. I declare this meeting open at 5:30. There are no announcements from myself. We do have apologies from Councillor Kozisek, and Councillor McCleary was on leave, but welcome back. We have one declaration of interest from Councillor Gassett, which is on the screen there. Was there any other declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. We have some public question time here from Ms. Dell Ambrosius. Dell, if you're able to come and ask your 3 questions.
Okay. Who approved the use of the Stirling Street Arts Centre for the 2021 Bunbury Fringe Festival? Please name only the organisation, not the individual person or persons involved. Question 2. Who approved the use of the Stirling Street Arts Centre for the 2022 Bunbury Fringe Festival? Please name only the organisation, not the individual person or persons involved. And what is the contractual arrangement between the Bunbury City Council and the Stirling Street Arts Centre?
Thank you, Dale. CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So in relation to question 1, who approved the use of the Stirling Street Arts Centre for 2021 for the Bunbury Fringe Festival? The Bunbury Fringe Festival runs over a number of facilities over the course of their event. The City of Bunbury approved the overall event. The event organiser then contracts the various facilities to suit their programming. The event organiser liaised directly with the Stirling Street Arts Centre for the use of that facility for 2021. In relation to question 2, who approved the use of the Stirling Street Arts Centre for the 2022 Bunbury Fringe Festival? The response is, for 2022, the City of Bunbury has advised the Bunbury Fringe Festival that they require an event permit to use the Stirling Street Arts Centre, which they have applied for. As part of an approval for the event, they will be required to abide by the terms and conditions as stipulated in the permit, which will include, but is not limited to, the following: waste management, environmental health management, including noise, liquor, food handling, public buildings, then parking, plan and open space management. Question 3, what is the contractual arrangement between the Bunbury City Council and the Stirling Street Arts Centre? The Stirling Street Arts Centre currently have a memorandum of understanding with the City of Bunbury. The City is working with the Stirling Street Arts Centre to prepare a formal lease for the building. Thank
you. Mr Mayor, could I just give you some background? Is that possible? I know it's not really allowed under the rules.
Not in this forum, sorry.
It's all right, you'll keep, I promise you.
More than happy to have a discussion with you after the meeting.
I'm sure, well, not tonight, but don't worry, it'll keep.
Thank you. Councillor, School, we have somebody move the minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Andrew, Councillor Giles, all those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 7.1.2, the advisory committees of the Audit Committee. Could we have somebody move that one, that we accept those minutes? Councillor Quain, Councillor Plum. I'll put that all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. There are no petitions, presentations or deputations. Councillors, dealing with the agenda tonight, all the items require a simple majority, and at this stage I have none coming out besides the motion on notice later on. So is there any of the items anyone would like to discuss? Yep. So yeah, that's coming out, Councillor Turner. So at this stage, any of the 10.11 through to 10.51, we have no reason to bring out unless anyone has any questions. All good. If that's the case, somebody happy to move that we move them en bloc? Councillor Steck, seconder. Councillor Plum. I'll put that. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So that brings us to the application for leave for Councillor Yip. We have a mover for that one, please. Thank you, Councillor Giles. And the seconder, Councillor McCurry. I'll put that. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, we have a motion on notice here with 2 recommendations. Councillor Plum. I might just get off the table. Thanks, Councillor McCurry first. And Councillor Plum, your intention to move your motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the motion, obviously. I'd also like to, as we just previously discussed, there was concern that there's financial implications with point 3 that Council hasn't had the opportunity to discuss. So I'd like to actually remove the requirement, that deadline to have that report, and I guess include some of the executive recommendation in point 2. So I believe Liam has, so the intent is all the same, and I believe Mr Murphy has the wording there merged together.
Just grab a seat, Councillor Plum. Can you just get that wording on the screen, please?
Order, Mr Mayor.
Yep. So, yes, Councillor McCurry.
Shouldn't Councillor Plum be making an amendment to his motion after he's put his motion forward?
Thanks, Councillor McCurry. I did just have this discussion a moment with the CEO because the intent's still the same, and it's just some relatively minor changing. I've said that that'll be okay as long as it obviously have a seconder. Could we just get that adjustment on the screen? Thanks, Liam.
Mr Mayor, may I
that
ask
is
a
it.
question now? May I ask my question?
1 second, please, Councillor McCurry. That's it? That was your intent, Councillor? Before you do, Councillor McCurry, was there a seconder to this motion? Councillor Yip. Councillor McCurry, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to let people know that I would like, if this does not get moved, and I would like to move the executive recommendation.
Is that a question?
Did you know, Mr Mayor, that I would like to move
thank
the
you,
executive
Councillor McCurry.
recommendation?
I encourage you to speak against this if that's the case. Councillor Plum, your motion is there. Invite you to speak.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the executive who talked me through this and helped get this motion compliant and able to be tabled today. I guess, councillors, I'd just like to convince you, I guess, in the next few minutes that it's a very basic motion requesting a strategy. It's not, I don't want to get bogged down in details tonight. I don't personally want to dictate what that strategy should look like. I think the staff are more than capable of coming up with something really innovative. I guess just to emphasise, that's all we're asking for tonight, or that's all I'm asking for, is a strategy to be able to use this site, and that the pros far outweigh the cons. The economic and tourism potential by moving this trial to a permanent location like this is massive. I have a strategy here from the state government from 2013 to 18. It's saying the value at that point in time in WA alone was estimated to be 847 million of within state tourism spend in caravans and camping. So that may well be well over $1 billion now within the state, and the government actually invested over 35 million to that strategy at the time. I do not know what's in existence right now. But we currently have, I think, 12 sites over those 2 locations, and the feedback from the report that we all reviewed and passed earlier this year was that about $360,000 was returned to the local economy from around $82,000 spent, so about $4.5 to every dollar spent. And that was including 2020, which was more of a write-off, and there was a comment in that report stating that the spend might be over $500,000. That's on 12 sites. This site done some very basic sketches and talked to professionals in the area, of saying that the site under a normal caravan park plan would take over 100 sites. I'm not suggesting that we'd have anywhere near that, probably less than half of that, but could well be triple or quadruple 12. And so the return, for those kind of numbers would be in the millions, potentially for the local economy. That's all our hospitality businesses and service suppliers for vehicles and all of those sort of things. And something that's really important, I guess, what I want to stress is I wouldn't want to see anything that competes with our local market for caravan tourism. This actually caters to a very different market to people who use caravan parks. Typically, I know myself when I travel, and I do travel frequently in car and camper trailer, I use a caravan park for the purposes that caravan parks provide a high level of amenity, and those type of users will appreciate that. This is, in my view, still staying a 48-hour rest stop, which means the strategy that's in place now to manage that would be largely unchanged. So we're talking grey nomads, if I can use that term, and there's also been a huge increase in younger travellers. Not sure if the van life term is known by all the councillors, but there's a very high number of younger travellers that would typically be on a Kentucky somewhere in Europe, cannot have brought cheap vans and are travelling around WA. I actually think that if we can attract interstate tourists for 1 or 2 nights, the flow-on effect may actually be that they revisit Bunbury in a caravan park or in some other way. But being able to come to that site, utilise it for a night, use a restaurant or whatever else they may want to use could actually well open their eyes to how much Bunbury's grown and all the benefits that are here. As far as impact on surrounding residents, I believe that probably this would be the least most impacting use on that site. Currently used as a hard stand area, and it's a little bit of mess there that needs to be tidied up. But suffice to say, the anecdotal feedback I've got from some Capel residents and Burracup residents is that the impact out there is virtually negligible. And actually, in some cases, the activation of the site reduces antisocial behaviour. So there's actually some benefits to using that on that site. There has been a report of certain items being found on that site at the moment, which are very dangerous for all residents, but certainly any kids that might be playing on that site as well. Also, just quickly, I'm not suggesting that use for overflow. I think we can adopt another strategy for our football clubs potentially in the future. That's a discussion for another day, but I'd really love to see a separate strategy developed for overflow capability within the city, again, not competing with local businesses. And finally, the Geotech Report that's been handed down, well not handed down, but available to all councillors, categorises the condition of the soil. Peat is not contamination. I'm sorry, I did use that word at one point. It's not. It's organic matter. It categorises areas within the site and how they can be compacted for certain building techniques. And it may mean that at some point in the future, certain techniques will be required to develop that site fully. And I'm totally, also advocating that there's always the opportunity to develop the site should the offer be presented. So I'd hope that you would support this motion tonight without any real downside, and go from there.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. Councillor Yip.
Thank you. Punchbowl Caravan Park site is like Balters Heights. Half the community think it's an iconic relic of the past, flooding old timers with nostalgia and aspirations to bring back the good old days. And half think it's yet another site left to sit idle. And like Balters Heights, also a challenging site. Its peat and drains and geotechnical quirks are no different to Balters Heights. Dangerous inclines and noxious weeds, bushfire hazards, not to mention troublesome teenagers. Nothing happened with Balters Heights until our voices and continual badgering of the executives for 2 years led to a new strategy for Balters Heights and has engaged the community and re-established a plan for the area. Now it's Punchbowl's turn. Let's get behind this motion as a way to get some action started on this site. We will need to have many more conversations, as we did have with Balters Heights, but in the meantime, let's activate the area, however that is. Councillors, we have heavy budget constraints, and this is one site that can actually eventually make us some money, and we should consider this as a way to get the ball rolling without getting bogged down in too many details, as Councillor Plum has said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yip. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Councillor McCleary.
And please forgive me because I was on annual leave until half an hour ago. I had an email which I read and opposing this Plum's motion, and 2 phone calls from residents concerned. So I made it my duty to come here and speak against this motion tonight. So for the first one that Councillor Plum's got up, this site was initially on our list of possibilities about 3 years ago, and it was proved to be unsuitable. It's zoned for tourism and it's near the residential areas, and people said when we went to community consultation about it, it's too far away from town. So that's one of the reasons why, well, several of the reasons why we knocked that on the head for that reason. That is for just your 24-hour. I noted that Councillor Plum mentioned that we could turn it back into a caravan site. Well, without a feasibility study on that, without many and much work done, I would say, that could be addressed with the recommendation that the executives have put forward. So on the second one, this site, I believe, is already registered with, I thought it was Landgate, but I see here that it's we have an MOU signed in 2017 with the WA and the City Development, Lands Development WA. So there's already something in place there. Yes, Councillor Yip's quite right. We need to beat the drum and get this happening, and this also can be motivated through the executive's recommendation if this one falls over and we can get that one up to and running. So I believe that it does go over old ground, the Councillor Plum, of different things that we've already discussed, already had looked at, for instance, geological ground. It's tourism site that needs to be changed, and that takes a long time to go through that. It's also a concern for me that there's been no consideration for the caravan operators that we have here. Now, we did a lot of work with the operators in Bunbury, and they were really concerned 3 years ago when we were bringing up this 24-hour free parking for camping, parking for our caravan site, and that took a long time to get settlement and understanding that we weren't interfering with the business. We're not in the business of running caravan parks, and we should never get into the business of actually becoming a competition for people who are already struggling to make a dollar. So I'm very concerned that there's been no consideration that would go out to the community, go out to the businesses, go out to the Pacific businesses, which this would affect if we do this. There has been no consideration, or there has been no requirement. We have our spaces. I haven't heard one mention that we need more spaces, that we need more parking for our overnighters. It seems to be adequate at this time in place. So I see no reason why we should make even more area for this to be done. It just gives council the appearance that we're being heavy-handed and saying, well, we're going to do this now. And we've been battling for years to get consultation happening, and we're going to do this without consultation. It gives the view, maybe that's not the case, but it gives the view that this is what we're going to be doing, and we haven't consulted anyone, no businesses. We just think this is a great idea, bang, let's go and do it, because that land hasn't been used for ages. There's not a good enough reason. So I'll be supporting the executive recommendation because it's holistic and it's progressive and it's to the benefit of all ratepayers, businesses and residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Is there a speaker for the motion? Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many of us during our election campaign, and I grant that I'm very new and don't have the historical record that fellow councillors have alluded to. However, this has been brought up many, many times by the community. Mr. Mayor, we have been asked many times to look at this and the possibilities of doing something. And may I just focus on number one is to request that the CEO presents a strategy to council. This is to present a strategy to evolve Bunbury. It is not saying that we are endorsing here to open up overnight rest stops. Currently our overnight rest stops are all taken up in parking bays. And if we want to evolve Bunbury, we have an opportunity here to develop a space for the city and for those coming to visit our wonderful city to deliver them something a little bit better than a windy car park up on the beach. Again, I just want to remind everyone that this is just to develop a strategy to bring back to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrew. Is there a speaker against? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just will say that it does ask for a transition to free overnight parking. It also says to authorise the CEO to negotiate with Development WA. As my fellow councillor Cleary has stated, we already have an MOU signed. We also have, as you know, sir, we also have a land bank and a list of other opportunities throughout the city that we are also going to consider in the new year. And furthermore, there is no budget allocated and there's no ablutions.
Councillor Steck. Is there a speaker for? Councillor Plum, would you like to close?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There have been some good points raised in the debate. Just if I can, councillors, a rest stop is very different to a caravan park. They don't need ablutions. There's probably the only thing that you might want to put in if in the future council considered the finances for it would be a dump point, simply because many travellers require that from a fully contained vehicle. But essentially those terms in the strategy would be retained, and that would prevent it from being a competing site with a caravan park. Just regarding Councillor McCleary's comments on demand, actually in the first 12 months of the trial, 309 vehicles were turned away that didn't have permits, so they whether they came in after hours or just did not go through the official process to get to that site, I don't know. But obviously there is a higher number of travellers at that point in time. That was in 2019, so I'd presume that number would be up as well. And there's also not a huge marketing strategy out for it, simply because there are a lower number of sites. Really regarding, not being in the business of running caravan parks, I would read that as synonymous as not being in the business of being innovative. It's a very, very simple potential on that site. It's and actually just a good segue to the reasoning for wanting to get this motion tabled right now is to give the executive and the staff time to prepare the site without the requirement to go in with capital funds or any large chunk. My view would be that if there's something reasonable presented in March, that there would be the winter to have the rains on the site, mow the lawns, top dress some of the soil to get it level. And there's some very basic pruning which the sou'westers might take care of for us. But essentially, the basic landscaping on that site would not incur a huge cost on the city at all. And again, without wanting to get into the strategy too much, hosts are usually very capable and highly skilled retirees who will manage some of the site caretaking, if you like, free of charge. There's a chance that the actual administration costs on this proposal would actually be less than what they currently are on that basis. And I guess as far as history goes, councillors, we're only asking, or I'm only asking for a strategy to come back for us to reconsider, and I guess it would be very, what's the word? I think frowned upon that the city would again sterilise an opportunity that would have a huge benefit to our local economy. So I'd encourage you and welcome your support, and hopefully we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Plum. So I'll put the motion as it is, which is Councillor Plum's motion. All those in favour? Those against? That motion is lost. Councillor McCreary, you foreshadowed a alternative motion?
No, sir. I would just like to
The executive recommendation, I should say. So you're moving the executive recommendation. Is there a seconder for the executive? Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor McCleary, anything further to add?
I would just like to remind people if they would think about the answers and the arguments that were put forward by the people who were against the motion, and consider that when you read what the executive's motion is, that we are going to be doing exactly what the first one in council time is. We're still looking at all areas of possibilities. We aren't closing the door. We aren't turning our back on the old caravan park. Thank you. We're progressing.
Thank you, Councillor McCreary. Councillor Giles?
Thank you, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just briefly, I don't think if we are going to expand this is the right place, but we will consider that when we get the report back from the CEO, because it's not a visible place. People can't see the visitors there. They can't see the ocean. There's no amenities. The site would have to have some work done on it for caravans to park there anyway, which would be at a cost to the city. We don't want to compete with caravan parks. We just heard a report just before this meeting that the site caravan parks and hotels are not full for this January, so we certainly don't want to be taking any business away from them. And we also need to have, thank you, have the site ready for us to look at as a development site. And if we're coming and going from there, and then we have to change our minds about the caravans again because we have got some way of dealing with that site, we don't want to be changing backwards and forwards all the time. So I think the idea of having a strategy come back to us, a strategic workshop that we all can be part of and come up with something that will work for everybody, I think that's a far better idea. Thank you.
Councillor Giles, is there any speakers against the executive recommendation? Nothing to close, Councillor McCleary?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll put the executive recommendations as it stands. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. I believe that brings us to a close, councillors. Perfect timing, 5:57. I'll declare this meeting closed.